Hello everyone, this is Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about an enhanced risk for severe weather with all three modes, including damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes, plus a look at the rest of the week into early next week. So if you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new to my community, consider subscribing to get all my daily updates. I sometimes update twice a day. It's free to do so. So definitely trust me, if there's something happening with the weather, you're going to know about it. So let's get right to it. Let's take a look at the overall satellite picture this morning. And man, look at this. I mean, there was a monster storm that we're going to be highlighting today. It's already got a lot of lightning with it. 1,237 flashes as of this morning. That's going to be the main setup that we're going to be highlighting today as this comes across. It's with the dangerous severe weather outbreak. But down here to the south, there's our Tut low that's getting more precipitation down here in Florida, where they've already been impacted for the last 2 days. That's continued moving off into the western Gulf here. But plus the monsoon trough and the monsoon season is alive and well with kind of daily afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Not everybody gets wet every single day, but at least gives you opportunities for daily rain showers and get a little bit of a respite from the heat. So if we take a look at the overall hazard map this morning, you can definitely see a lot of the heat advisories are not as prevalent as what we've seen as of late. And plus they pushed inland too, and that's giving the coastal regions some relief from the heat, and they'll be more or less average as we go into midweek here. But yes, this is your monsoon. We've got flash flood watches into Arizona and parts of New Mexico, even getting into parts of Colorado now. So let's take a look at, zoom out and take a look at the overall big picture. There's a couple features. I want to start off in the tropics. This feature out here into, there's a 10% chance of this developing from the National Hurricane Center. They just more or less highlighted this. It's not going to develop or anything like that. But there's that Tut low down here by Florida. That's spreading the precipitation that's past Jamaica now this morning. That's going to be impacting parts of the Yucatan. That will continue moving into the northwestern Gulf and going to be impacting their southern coastal regions over the next several days. This little feature down here is what will be Tropical Storm Felicia, and that's not going to be impacting land on a direct basis, but it's actually going to give just highlighting more precipitation and keeping that monsoon trough alive and keeping, daily rain showers and thunderstorms available for the Arizona and New Mexico region. And in fact, some of that precipitation actually impacted Los Angeles yesterday. They picked up 1/10 of an inch. And so any rain they get out there is welcome. So there's going to be more opportunities that's coming in the days ahead for parts of California as well. But yeah, there's that highlighted feature out up here. So let's zoom into that feature. Man, this has got a lot of available potential energy that's with the atmosphere. This is a very intense monster storm they're going to be dealing with in parts of southern Minnesota, parts of Iowa today. That will spread into Wisconsin with a lot of severe weather. So let's zoom into this vorticity index. I mean, you can see by later on this afternoon, this is about 4, 5, 6 o'clock this afternoon. I do feel it's going to be in this region of southern Minnesota, getting into parts of Iowa. That'll spread into Wisconsin with some very heavy rain, large hail, damaging winds, and you have that isolated tornado threat is definitely not out of the question. As we go into the afternoon hours, then it'll congeal into a squall line as it pushes southeastward into the evening hours. So let's take a look at the overall significant tornado parameters. I mean, it's pretty prevalent as we get into that 4, 5 o'clock time frame. That's when I think it's going to be the highest impact for possibly that rotation in the atmosphere. So this is the highlighted area of northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, getting into Wisconsin here. I'm pretty concerned about a pretty big severe weather outbreak in this region with all three modes of severe weather. And we do have a little feature down here with our first shortwave with our boundary into the Northeast, where they've been impacted a lot lately with some very heavy rain and severe weather for that region as well. But if we take a look at the overall, the latest HRRR model, taken back about 5 o'clock, I stopped it right here. that's moving across. It's right here this morning, but that'll be spreading eastward as we go into the morning hours, into the afternoon hours. This is what the radar could possibly look like about 5 o'clock this afternoon. It'll be impacting southern Minnesota, but especially getting into Wisconsin here. We'll just be inundated with all three modes of severe weather by then. There's your isolated pop-ups into the Four Corners regions from our monsoon. And there's the highlighted feature down here with our tropical wave that's impacting Florida here with some precipitation as we get into the heat of the day. And yes, there's that first boundary line that'll be impacting sporadically in the Northeast. But as we transition into the evening hours, this is going to develop into a squall line, and that's where you could be looking at some of that damaging wind setup. So by 9 o'clock tonight on Wednesday, we could be looking at some very strong winds, upwards to almost 80-mile-per-hour wind gust at times. That'll be pushing off to the southeast with some very nasty severe weather and going to be impacting. Yeah, Wisconsin just gets nailed today down here, and then traversing into parts of Illinois as we get into the overnight hours tonight. So if we zoom in to the enhanced risk for severe weather, we definitely find parts of Madison, Wisconsin, get into Cedar Rapids, getting into Rochester and Appleton. Those are the areas a little bit more susceptible. We're seeing some of those all three modes of severe weather later on this afternoon. But like I mentioned, this will traverse down to the southeast. So even parts of Chicago, getting into Milwaukee, Omaha, Nebraska, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Yeah, definitely not out of the question since we're seeing some of that nasty severe weather. And then, yeah, even the Northeast, you could be under the gun with that first boundary, and this will be kind of a 1-2 punch as this continues being impacted. So this whole area has been very unsettled all week, and actually will continue to remain unsettled for the rest of the week. So let's take a look at the overall flash index. I like to look at this in the summertime. It kind of gives you a true depiction. Sometimes in these summertime environment, the upper level winds are really light and the steering currents are really light. So once these storms pop up, they could be producing some very heavy rain and in a short amount of time, but also be isolated. So sometimes there was a video that I was just watching yesterday. It was like literally pouring on one side of the house, and then they panned over to the other window and it was bright sunny day. That is the nature of the beast of summertime thunderstorms and this type of environment. Because as you get heated up in the afternoon, yes, you could see those bubbling up of thunderstorms. And yes, it looks pretty severe with the flash index as we go into the afternoon hours. But as we transition into the morning hours going into Friday, you see it really pulses down, and it just picks up and the convectibility of where that boundary will be by the time we get into Friday morning. And that by the time we get into Friday morning, as that traverses down to the southeast, now the setup will be much of parts of Oklahoma, getting into central Missouri, getting into parts of Illinois, going into Indiana and Ohio here, with just the northern fringes of North Texas could see some rain from this particular setup as we go through the day on Friday. But look at the difference between the morning activity and the afternoon activity. This doesn't imply it's going to be raining in all these places, but it just shows you the energy in the atmosphere as we heat up in the afternoon. Yes, you could see these pulses of lightning flashing at times, and then sometimes there might not much be coming out of it as it pulses up for 10 minutes and then it squashes back down. But some of them's able to rise up in the atmosphere and have towering thunderstorms and produce 2 inches of rain, but then 5 miles down the street, you didn't get a drop. That is the nature of the beast of summertime thunderstorms. And that's kind of like what we're going to be dealing with, especially if you live in parts of the Southeast as we go through, the rest of the week. But there is the actual rain setup as we get into the afternoon hours on Friday. There's that boundary that'll be pushing off to the southeast. It's kind of slow moving nature, so it's not a quick moving system. So yeah, those impacted areas will be much of Oklahoma, much of Arkansas, getting into the Missouri Valley, into the Ohio Valley, and then down to the southeast, we'll have that kind of a 1-2 punch with the tropical wave, with heavier impacts along the coast. And then as this pushes southeast, all this will kind of come together and just spread, daily afternoon showers and thunderstorms as the monsoon trough remains active in the Four Corners regions with some afternoon activity. And so as we transition into Saturday, the 17th, you can definitely see all that just kind of congeals together, and that'll be setting up, again, isolated heavier rain showers, taking advantage of the heat of the day. I always stop at around 4 or 5 o'clock because that's typically where you get the most activity. And then it kind of pulses down as we go into the evening hours, and it loses that sun as the sun sets, and it kind of fades as the sun sets, and then you're left with some much needed rain showers for some, but then others are left out saying, hey, what happened? So as we get into Sunday, that you can definitely see the setup still there. I mean, you still have a lot of instability in the Ohio Valley, down to the southeast coast. There's Felicia down here, so that's well away from land, but it's still keeping the monsoon trough alive and well, so that it gives you at least opportunities on a daily basis to see some of that rain into that Four Corners regions where they desperately need the rain. So any of this is well welcomed in that region. So take to kind of eat away at some of that drought that they were experiencing out there. So as we transition into Monday, I mean, you would think this consistent flow and this consistent pattern would somewhat break. I mean, we're going into the hottest time of the year. I mean, would be July the 19th by then. You're talking down here in the south, that's the hottest time of the year. For those 3-4 week time span, the averages are the hottest you're going to see for the entire year. So when you're seeing anomalies drop in 20 degrees below average temperatures, that is very unusual for this time of year. And what's interesting is a lot of this below average anomalies in Oklahoma City and Dallas, those are these same areas that just got crushed with that Arctic invasion back in February. And yes, but they were above average in March, but ever since then, April, May, June, July has been below average. In fact, Dallas has not even seen a 100-degree temperature. Oklahoma City didn't even come close. In fact, there's only been 2 years in Dallas they've never got a 100-degree temp. 1906, 1973, essentially halfway through summer. And man, there's not much on the table that I can actually say, hey, this thing's shifting in a dramatic way anytime soon, because we have just consistent troughs that drop in the central part of the region. The ridge builds over the top. Like I mentioned, the ridge kind of builds more or less into the interior regions. Now the heavier, higher anomalies are going to be more or less over Idaho and Montana and the northern regions. But down here, down to the south, yes, they're going to be below average going back into next week with a pretty strong cold front. And yes, by Tuesday, look at the anomalies of 20 plus degrees below average. Now, granted, this is probably not going to be your high temperature in the 70s, right? So this is just showing you at the peak heating about 4 o'clock, there's a lot of clouds and could be a lot of rain around. And with that rain, because your average high temperatures are about 96 this time of year. So, and then with the rain, you could be looking at the mid 70s and some of the daytime rain that could be moving in. So once the rain falls and it heavier rains at times, obviously that's going to drop the temperature. So that's what the model is actually picking up on right now, even though some of the highs will only be in the 80s. But yeah, afternoon temperatures could drop into the 70s when that rain starts to fall in much of Oklahoma, parts of Arkansas, and much of Texas, North Texas, getting into Waco, Austin. Some of your daytime afternoon temperatures could drop into the 70s with that rain around and the cooler temperatures, by the time we get into that Tuesday, July the 20th time frame. But yeah, there would be your rain in the afternoon. So like I mentioned, that's where it's picking up on those below average anomalies with the compounding effect of the highest, peak heating of the day. And with the rain and the clouds, that's going to drop the 20-degree temperatures in the afternoon hours. And then once, once the sun goes down, then yes, a lot of this will fade, but at least gives you opportunities as it sinks southward. And then as we transition into Wednesday time frame, the 21st, really doesn't go anywhere. It's just locked and loaded for much of the central part of the US. The ridge just builds over the top, and that cold front will just kind of ooze into Texas and start to little fade, but at least gives you, below average. The below average temperatures continue for the foreseeable future. Let's take a look at the overall radar. The rain for the next 7 days. There's your persistent setup. This region down here in the south and much of the Ohio Valley and the East Coast here remains unsettled, with not just, for the rest of the week, but it just kind of reloads as we get into the following week. The monsoon trough continues to remain active. And yes, we will start to see some least opportunities in isolated showers and some storms impacting parts of California as well. So all that is much needed. And even parts of Nevada could be picking up some rain. I mean, Lake Mead is just crazy, 85-year low in that region. I mean, they just desperately need the rain. So anything they can get in this region is definitely welcome. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.